Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by the notorious new YouTuber, Gen X Man. He's going to be talking to us about Andor Season 2. We're also going to be just talking about Andor altogether. We're going to be asking the main question: is Andor worth your time? Especially Season 2, because Season 2 just concluded last night. Gen X Man, I'm pretty sure you just watched the very last few episodes yourself. Why don't you tell everybody how you're doing, man? Because you're a new face around here, and we'd love to hear more from you. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. As you might have guessed, this isn't how I look every day. This is a guise I adopt when the need arises.
Okay, so you don't wander around with a giant X on your forehead
No,
and a
that'd be
visor.
far too conspicuous.
Got it, got it.
I
Wow.
prefer to operate in the shadows until needed.
So Gen X man, you're a pretty big Star Wars fan yourself too, right? I mean,
Yeah,
we're gonna be
that's right.
talking
And
all Star Wars today.
as you might guess, I mean, I grew up. I'm a member of Generation X, so I grew up with the original Star Wars movies, episodes 4, 5, and 6, and yeah, they definitely shaped how I think about the world, I suppose.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it's like I'm pretty sure that you are also like me, not a big fan of what Disney has done, especially with their TV series. So I think we're going to be having a pretty interesting conversation about Andor. I know you were a big fan of Andor season one, weren't you?
Absolutely. It's one of those shows that once you start watching, you want to just keep watching, until the end. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say that's true of all those Star Wars streaming shows, but that's what I think about Andor season 1.
I know you don't really. I don't think because we've obviously talked off camera a few times. You've never really. I don't think I've ever heard you talk about any other show where you wanted to go back and rewatch it. Is that correct? I've definitely never seen or heard you do that on your own free will, but you've been doing that with Andor season one, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually hadn't realized it about myself, but yeah, I didn't go back and rewatch any of the Mandalorian, or what are I refused to watch Acolyte. I saw little bits of it, and that was a firm no.
You didn't watch any of Acolyte. Well, I
Well,
don't blame you
I
there.
watched part of the first episode and then most of the last episode, and I think that was plenty.
Yeah, I'd say so. You're not missing anything if you're not watching Acolyte. I think, when I watched Acolyte, I'll admit I was just purely miserable the whole time. But I was almost like looking forward to watching the next episode just because it was just so devastatingly terrible that it became fun. It was kind of fun. And I think, you kind of like, we're just in such a sad place in Star Wars where everything it's just a literal circus out there, an absolute circus. This is not what we signed up for at all. I remember years ago when they announced all these series that Disney was going to be doing. I was pretty excited about it, especially like right after Mando season 1, and then you hear about all these other shows, Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi, another Mandalorian season. There was some hope there, right? I mean, I remember even back then when we talked about Mando, you were pretty optimistic yourself. Yet it's been so terrible, and I don't think anybody imagined that Andor, this weird little series about some scrawny character nobody really cared about in Rogue One, I don't think anybody anticipated that it would become, the keystone Star Wars series. This is, I mean, it's the best piece of Star Wars material we've had since Episode 3. I mean, wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, and it's surprising how well they were able to develop this character. You sort of said it in a way that he wasn't somebody that I think many of us sort of looked up to or wanted to see more of
Mm.
after watching Rogue One, and I was genuinely surprised when they decided to build a whole series around him. But it worked.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, isn't that yeah, where did they whose bright idea was it to give him his own show? Yeah, I'm very glad they did. And by gosh, this is something there's going to be a few key takeaways from this stream today. We're going to talk about, the highs and lows of Andor season 2. We're also going to be sprinkling in some of our favorite and least favorite moments from Andor season 1. But, because of this series, I was introduced to a new, well, maybe not new, but a male character and a female character that I kind of put at the top of my list, Star Wars wise. Ever since Disney has acquired Star Wars, I've fallen in love with both of these. And yeah, they created a highly competent, interesting female character, right? I mean, it's been a while. It's been a while, Disney. You know, Sabine didn't help, Ray didn't help, May didn't help, Osha didn't help. Sabine really didn't help. I thought she was probably even worse than May and Osha, and that's saying a lot. But yeah, they give us one of those. I don't want to reveal who that is exactly yet. But for audiences that aren't too aware with Andor, we're interested in trying to enlighten you to it and to understand it a little better. So I'd like to summarize just the first season pretty briefly. So this obviously takes place before Rogue One. I imagine everybody has seen Rogue One. Rogue One is that big collective film that pretty much answered the question, what led up to Episode 4? How did the rebels get these Death Star plans? Because it's like lightly referenced in Episode 4 that there was some sort of heist or there was some sort of mercy mission to get these plans. And as you mentioned before, in our own conversation, Gen X, that everything, all of this, like all the drama that happens in Rogue One and in the show, all of it leads to just one little thing that becomes a massive spectacle. Is all of this is just about getting the Death Star plans. All of the drama, Andor season 1 and 2 and Rogue One, just leads to that point in time, and then that point in time leads to the death of the Death Star through the hands of Luke Skywalker. It's so interesting how all of this pivots, across time, especially in the second season. But we're talking about the first season here. So in the first season, we're following Cassian Andor, who is, he's a very much so secondary character. Felicity Jones as Jyn Erso, she's the main character in Rogue One. But Andor, yeah, very secondary in the movie. He's kind of scrappy, he keeps to himself, but he's competent and he's confident. He's confident in himself, and he breaks teeth. He cuts corners, and he does things like, he's sort of an anti-hero at times. And you know what? In season 1, he is absolutely an anti-hero, if not a villain himself, because right off the bat, he's very scrappy and he's really just trying to get by. We are not following a soldier at this point. We're following just an utter survivor. And we see his story, progress as he becomes, more acquainted with the rebel cause. And both of these seasons are split up into 3 episode arcs. And there's 12 episodes altogether in both seasons. So there's 4 arcs in each season. The first arc in season 1 is the Ferrex arc. So this is where Cassian kills 2 corporate officers. He draws the attention of the security forces, and he's pretty much on the run. And he has to escape from his homeworld. At this point, he's in a really desperate space. He doesn't really have very many connections. And this is when he runs into Luthen, who is, he's sort of like a rebel crime boss almost as a type, very much so kind of leading his own little rebellious cause. He hates the Empire. And of all the characters in Andor, he cuts the most corners. He is relentless, merciless, and it seems to only get further merciless as time progresses. So that's the first arc. And then we go on to the second arc, which is the Aldhani arc. For the first season, this was my favorite of all time. I love this. This is when Andor, he goes under the alias of Clem, and he joins a small rebel cell as they are attempting to rob an Imperial payroll facility. And it's a really exciting event where we see how the rebellion, like bare bones rebellion, ragtag group of misfits, how they combine their forces and, use all these different talents together, even though they're butting heads, to achieve a impossible mission. And a lot of shit hits the fan during that. And Eben Moss, he's going to be the new Thing. He's also, he's the guy in Chef. I loved him in that arc. My gosh, he was awesome. And at the end of the story there, he's sort of he's a hustler, and he was mostly in it for the money. And really interesting stuff happens there. I digress. The next arc, we see the Narkina 5 arc. This is where Cassian is unjustly arrested and imprisoned in a high security labor facility. And I guess this is based off of another film that George Lucas also made. I can't remember what it's called. It was like something he made like a decent time before this. But it's pretty much just an absolute oppressive prison where there's no freedom of speech, no freedom at all. You are stuck there forever, but there's an illusion that you will get out through good merit. And, the Andor alongside Andy Serkis, they sort of become wise to this, and they create an uprising in the prison facility, and they eventually bust out. That's a very exciting one. I think most people probably consider that to be their favorite arc from the first season. And then the last arc of that season, I wasn't the biggest fan. Cassian, he goes back home to Ferrix, where there's an uprising. His mother, Marva, I guess she recently dies, but she's interested in refueling an uprising there as Imperial occupation just furthers its grip on that space. And yeah, it's pretty much just a little rebellious intervention that happens there, and that pretty much marks the end of the first season. Now moving on to the second season, we don't see so much of a scrappy survivor Andor anymore, which for me was kind of disappointing because I loved that scrappy Andor. My gosh, he was so cool. He was a survivor. He was so bitter, gritty, and just driven. He was primal. He was really primal, and I loved seeing that. And I think he was way more intense. And this is something Disney Star Wars, has not been able to capture like at all ever since they've acquired Star Wars. Is showing us like true grit and true intensity and drive. And my gosh, did he have that in this first season? In the second season, he also has it. It's just different. He's way more controlled now, way more concise, and he's matured. He's more of a man. He's becoming a leader. He's becoming, a rebel, not just some scrappy little misfit anymore. So he's raising up to the challenges that meet him here. And the first arc here, we're also split into 3 arcs or 4 arcs again. The first arc is the worst one. Now, I know, Jedi fan, we've got a lot to say about the first one. We're gonna, after I summarize it, I want to get deep into this. But the first arc will turn everyone off, and you've probably heard it in other YouTube videos that the first like 6 episodes really are not very good. The first 3 are pretty much unwatchable. They were so boring. My gosh, I like slow-paced drama. I think slow-paced drama is awesome. I don't mind listening to interesting dialogue, seeing characters, bounce their different traits off each other, being different, and learning more about these characters. But my gosh, this is just extremely slow-paced and boring. And really one of the most cringy elements of the whole thing for the first 3 episodes is Andor, he gets caught up in this forest with all of these like ultra misfit like forest rebels. And they have him captive. He's stuck there forever. And the way they bicker and talk to each other, they're like a bunch of babies in the forest. And it's absolutely un-Star Wars. I don't know what they were thinking with that. We wasted so much time with those characters, and you know what? We never see them again. What a waste. I don't even understand it. And then in the background of that, so you're juggling that boring storyline. That happens after Andor steals a TIE fighter. It's like some sort of experimental TIE fighter, and it goes off, and there he is. He's stuck with those guys. And in the background, Mon Mothma also has a weird storyline in the background where she is having a wedding for her daughter. Ooh, how exciting. This is totally Star Wars, right? No, it's very strange. We see a lot of drama enveloped there between her daughter and the new boy she's going to be marrying. We learn more about, their people and their traditions, and also her ties with one of her Senate friends it's starting to slip, and maybe he's becoming an issue. Definitely uninteresting. If you watch Andor, if you give it a shot and you try to watch season 2, just try your best to get through those. Oh my gosh, they were really hard to watch. The second arc also wasn't that exciting either, but it starts to pick up a little better here. So we have the Gorman Cell and failed heist arc. So Cassian, he goes undercover again here. He goes as Varian Sky. He's sort of an affluent designer, and I love seeing him play this other character. It's pretty funny. I love how Andor, Diego Luna, he has a lot of range. He doesn't get credit for a lot of range, but I think especially like halfway through the season till the end, we see Andor just really transform so many times over. I notice that. I know a lot of other people don't see that, but I see that every time, and I always enjoy seeing that side of things. But he's helping out the Gorman people here. Gorman is this new planet, and I guess it's really rich. It's recognizable. It's a recognizable planet in the galaxy that has influence, and they are starting an uprising. They're getting tired of imperial occupation, and the Empire is slowly just choking them a little bit, and it just gets worse and worse over time. It's very much so like the French Revolution. That's what I was telling you about earlier, Gen X Man. Before the stream, we were talking about how these guys, they literally sound French. They kind of look French. They have like the French accents. It was very French Revolution-esque to me in Star Wars. And so he's kind of there. He's scoping it out, trying to figure out if he wants to get involved with Luthen. Luthen's, figuring things out. He's also in the background between the first arc and the second arc. He is developing a relationship with Bix. She's also in the first season. She's very much so in the background. You don't see much of her at all. In this season, she's kind of like traumatized from a previous experience she's had with an Imperial officer, if you know what I'm talking about. It was an SA situation. And she's kind of dealing with the trauma from that. And I think they I don't know. We just didn't really need to see that in here very much. And she deals with it, through drugs, and she's depressed and stuff like that. And it was sad to see that. But, I just want to see Cassian. I'm sorry, Bix. I don't care about you very much. Definitely rather just focus on Cassian here. We didn't really get enough of him in this season, even though it's literally his show, which seems to be Disney's, main their main priority with these solo-led films. Kenobi, we don't see that much Kenobi. Now here we are with this, and then Boba Fett. You don't see very much Boba Fett. I felt kind of the same way with Andor as well. But so what's funny about this arc is that Andor, he's helping out the rebellion, and he's trying to get a good look at things. But so is Cyril. If you remember Cyril from season 1, he's one of those ISB like officer type guys, and I guess he gets demoted in the first season, so he's trying to like get his mojo back here. And he properly infiltrates this rebel group and convinces them that he's like a valuable member. He's trying to help everybody out. But, secretly, he's just feeding all the information to the Empire. And, a lot of drama ensues there. And he actually starts to, kind of feel for the rebels a little bit. He's seeing that they're actually people at the end of the day. So that was kind of nice to see. It's sort of expected. Then when we move to the third arc, I'll try not to get super spoilery here. I'll just be kind of more brief than normal. The Gorman massacre happens. So shit hits the fan here. All the stakes of what's been happening in Gorman, the rebellion, it's heating up, and they pretty much they get weaseled into a corner here. And like I said, shit hits the fan, massacre ensues, and it sort of erupts like the whole galaxy. Like this is sort of like an opener to show the whole galaxy that, the Empire is really evil. Here's your example. You better start lighting your torches and joining us, because this was a beacon to the whole galaxy that, yes, we need to take action against the Empire. And this is when things get really exciting. One thing I've failed to mention so far is that all of this takes place a year in advance. So like each one of these arcs, it's 1 year past, 1 year past, 1 year past. So a lot changes every year, which also makes it pretty exciting to watch itself. But in the background here, Mon Mothma and Bail Organa, they're starting to talk a little bit more, and they're trying to make a big plan, to make a statement on the Senate level. Nobody in that sphere has done that yet, either out of fear or they're just buying into the program. They're smelling they're not really smelling the coffee. I don't know. They're drinking the Kool-Aid. Everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid. And she does something pretty amazing. She speaks out against what the Empire's been doing. She's the first one to do that. And of course, right after that happens, insanity erupts. She's number one target from the Empire, and Andor saves her. Super exciting segment there. I'm going to leave a lot of the rest of the stuff out there because we'll get into it soon. But then the last arc is what just finished earlier today. I'm going to be definitely brief with this because I don't want to spoil this for anybody that hasn't seen it. But let's just say they're Luthen is in a really bad spot here. Luthen and Clea. This like 3-episode arc is really mostly focused on Luthen and Clea. It's sort of Clea's story, even more than Luthen. And pretty much they're compromised. They're compromised, but they learn something absolutely vital to the rebellion. And it puts them on the hit list, yet another target on the hit list 1 year later after what happened last time. And shit hits the fan yet again. Clea needs rescued, and Andor comes and he's got to save the day. But how does that go? You'll just have to see for yourself. So yes, there's a lot of story packed in here. And I know I just talked for a long time. My gosh, we're already at 21 minutes. That just went so fast. Gen X Man, what do you think? Just out of everything I just mentioned there, was there any particular arcs that stuck out to you that you want to just call to attention real quick?
Oh my goodness. Well, there are a lot of arcs. I guess that's the first thing to note, and you did a good job laying them out. I think one that comes to mind, and you may not agree with me, what is I liked the wedding ceremony a bit.
Oh.
And here's why. I mean, I don't have a subscription to bridal magazines or anything like that, but I liked how they took the time to develop some customs, some ways of conducting this ceremony with, like a formal dance and dress, various kinds of dress that they wore to the wedding, and then even when they got through with the formal dance, then the informal dance and this sort of disco-like Star Wars ball emerges and starts playing, one of the hits of the time, I guess, and everybody starts dancing. But even when they do that, the dance, the modern loose dance, it's different than how we do it here and now. And I like that they took the time to develop that element of the culture, because I don't think we see a lot of that kind of cultural development in other arcs.
That's a fair point. Yeah, well, I think I think like people, they talk about filler content, right? Like I love Star Wars: The Clone Wars. For as much crap Dave Filoni gets, if you haven't seen Star Wars: The Clone Wars and you're trashing Dave Filoni, you should watch The Clone Wars because my gosh, I mean, people will say there's a lot of filler in there, but he expands on the universe of Star Wars beautifully in that series, and he does not get enough credit from that from people that haven't seen that show. But this is sort of like I agree with you though. I don't think the wedding scene was like bad or anything because you learn a lot. But I guess two questions arise. One is, how is this appropriate for the first 3 episodes, right? I mean, this is supposed to be an exciting entrance into the world of Andor. We're continuing that crazy, intense drama that you watched a whole season for last year or last 2 years. And then the second question is, why a wedding? Why are we exploring a wedding and Mon Mothma's people? I mean, what? I mean, you see it, and it's not really that interesting or exciting. She's a human. She's a human that wears interesting clothes, right? And that's something you mentioned to me, off stream, was that it was funny. A big problem that Andor has is that they just don't have enough aliens. My gosh, there are so many people, just tons of people, and it's like it's sort of jarring seeing so many humans here, and of course it's super diverse too, but there's just no aliens. Like, look at this, these are the prominent characters in Andor right here, and not a single alien, definitely not a single alien. And when you think back to like old Star Wars, or just think of the Jedi Council itself. There's like no humans on the Jedi Council. I mean, you have Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin, I guess you can count him, Mace Windu. Is that it? I think there's like an Indian lady, Depa Balaba, but other than them, I mean, there's just tons of aliens. I mean, George Lucas, he got so much crap for not having many female characters, but there's just wasn't many male dude characters either. So I don't know. I think that's kind of a funny entry and tidbit that I think they could have improved upon. But in the last few episodes, they do change that. There are quite a few aliens, as you told me off stream. Like it's weird. Like they buff up the whole alien thing like tenfold the last 3 episodes. There's just tons of aliens, which I'm all about. It's way cooler that way. But yeah, well, why don't we start talking about the positives? Like, what are some of your positive takeaways from Andor season 2 Gen X, man? Because I think for both of us, there's way more positives than negatives. So why don't we just get started broad ways? If you want to talk about a certain point in time, maybe I have a relevant picture as well of just like features in Andor that you would want people to experience if they watch this themselves.
Well, I was thinking about what does the show bring to the audience, and I would say one of the main things it brings to the audience is sensitive treatment of Star Wars itself, right? I mean, they don't try to insert too much identity politics or other things that sort of detract from Star Wars as we know it, or want to know it, and want to see it. So I'd say they're really careful in Andor. They don't stray off the path of what Star Wars is all about, and what the rebellion is there for, who the Empire is. I mean, it's clear, at least from the point of view of the rebels, who's the bad guy, and you never really lose sight. They don't lose sight of that.
Yeah.
They don't try to make the Empire out to be anything than what it is. It's just this malevolent monster.
You're right. Wait, real quick. I love that you said that. That's so true. Yeah, gosh. That's like, I think everybody is so sick of seeing the villains portrayed as, oh, maybe they're good. Oh, they have good elements. They care. They're just looking out for the little guy. They're misunderstood. That's not the case here at all. Good point. I didn't even think about that. But that makes a huge difference because that's modern cinema for you right there.
Yeah.
And that's what they do with the Acolyte. I mean, oh my gosh, oh, May and Osha, they were taken advantage of by the Jedi Order. Gosh, they were awful. That was their whole mission, It's like, gosh, shut up. Quit that right now. Ridiculous.
Yeah, they there weren't a ton of special effects, but when they were featured, they were done very well. I mean, something as simple as you see a TIE fighter flying through the air, it looks like something flying through the air.
Mm-hmm.
And the blasts and the impact that they have on whatever they hit, that all looks really good. You don't sort of question the validity of it. And I assume that they used a mix of CGI and CGI. And it blended real well. I can't remember any time where I thought, "Oh gosh, that looks so hokey," nothing like that. And I think if that's something you appreciate, then I think you'll like Andor for that reason. It's just real solid sci-fi special effects.
One of my friends, Neil, he's never seen any Star Wars before. He's always been interested, and I remember I saw it with him in theaters. I saw Rogue One with him in theaters when they re-released it back in like 2021, and I think like he was very interested and excited. This was a great like entrance into Star Wars itself, and it's sort of its own thing too. Like you don't really need to see anything before that. And this is sort of the case with Andor. I think Andor is a good entrance into the whole Star Wars franchise. If you want to get into it and you're not too familiar with Star Wars or or you don't really know where to start. I mean, obviously you'd want to start with the films, but if you want to switch things up, you could start with Andor. I think it sets a proper tone that Star Wars is. Kind of brings you back to the way it used to be with George Lucas. Um, I don't know. You have anything else, Gen X man? Any more positives?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll get into this more later. The show gets off to a very rough start, but
Yeah.
if you can get past the first episode, maybe the first couple, it gets better and better, and by the end, everything that was kind of missing from the first episodes, and I thought, gosh, they really missed this opportunity to do this or that. They did it all by the
Hmm.
time they got to the end. So I felt very satisfied after, especially after like the final two episodes.
Hmm.
Um, rich storytelling, things were weaving together. You could see this all, you know, culminating in the the sequence of events that would unfold in Rogue One. It was all real seamlessly done, and yeah. So I think if you can get past the first couple episodes, you'll be rewarded by the time you get to the end, and it'll be worth your while.
Yeah, I
Go
don't
ahead and
know. It's
check it
like
out.
I that makes me mad though thinking about that because I'm so tired of that narrative where it's like you have to suffer for a few episodes to get to something good. And gosh, that just makes me so mad. It seems like that's so common nowadays with every show. I feel like every series starts off with like two or three stinkers. And it's like I don't even if I don't want to dedicate, if the first hour isn't going to be good, then why how is this title earn my respect by spending my precious time watching it, right? And I mean, Andor, I remember when I watched this second season, at the very end of that first episode, I couldn't even finish it. I was going to quit immediately. And then I kept hearing great things about it. Be patient, be patient. So a couple days later, I came back and we ended up binging a bunch of them. I mean, we watched all of Andor really in the about 4 days time span, and I'm really glad that I did. But gosh, I just don't. I'm really curious to know if like casual consumers, if they're going to jump on here, watch the first episode, and see how terrible it is, and completely log off. And that's their fault. They did that. I mean, they didn't have to do that. They could have. I mean, they could have at least started with the whole Gorman rebellion thing right off the bat. We didn't need to start with that silly nonsense in the very beginning with a TIE fighter. And in the end, it didn't amount to anything either. Same for really the Mon Mothma thing, didn't really go anywhere either. And, that was the focal point for 3 episodes. It was like, why? Why would you waste the time like that? I don't know. Yeah, just starting off with filler just seems to be a mistake. What else do you got, Gen X man? You have anything more positive wise?
Oh, positive wife. Well, we got to see the origin, if you want it, if you will. Is it C2SO? Did I say
Oh,
that right?
K2SO.
K2SO. Yeah, yeah. And I felt like when he showed up, it got a lot more fun. Um, and he, the robot itself is very capable.
Mhm.
And yeah, they're very fortunate to have him helping out at select times, and I won't give away too much there, but yeah, that was a great character introduction, and it added a little bit of levity there that really was lacking up until that time. I mean, season one certainly, and most of season two, it's all very serious. Nobody ever cracks a
Mm.
smile or farts or makes a silly joke here and there. It's all
Yeah.
real straight and somber. And K2SO mixes it up there at the end, with some levity, and I really appreciated it. I felt like the series kind of needed that. It needed some,
Mm.
there needed to be a little comic relief here and there, just to, I don't know, balance things out.
I want to see K2SO mix it up with Luthen. That would have been crazy. I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know how he would take to his like offhanded jokes. That'd be funny, a funny mix. Yeah, you make a good point though. But that's something I love about Andor. I love serious titles. I love suspense. I love the the drama and the grit. My gosh, I just loved how everything mattered. These guys were so purpose driven, just sheer purpose, and I think that's something I've grown to love about Andor. I love how he's a real man. He is a real man. This is how a lot of men should be, to behavior wise, driven by their goals. Making personal sacrifices to achieve those goals. And you know what? You should have a moral compass, and you should uphold your moral compass. Which he doesn't exactly do in this, which I wouldn't suggest. But I think he just, when I saw him, I was proud of him, and I was proud of Tony Gilroy for giving us this man, this character, a hero, a real hero that just felt real. All these characters, they felt human. They were human characters, and they had their faults. They made stupid mistakes. They suffered consequences from making those mistakes. Luthen does, Andor does, Bix does, all of them do. My gosh. Some worse than others, but everything seems to come back to them at some point in time here. And, all loose ends are tied. You pretty much learn, you see the ins and outs of everything in this. And this is a credit that I don't think Andor is getting much notice for. I loved the observance and the detailed reflection on like Imperial logistics and the processes of just the Empire and how it works, the hierarchies and the officials and their missions and their the qualities they have and their shortcomings and the processes of what they have to go through to survive within this system that punishes. It doesn't reward. It strictly punishes those who fail to meet the demands of the Emperor and the Empire itself. And my gosh, like this character, Partagaz, I think that's his name. He, in the first season, you don't really know much about him. But especially in the final episodes of the second season, you kind of discover how he has a real heart. You wouldn't think this guy would be, a heartful, caring officer. But there's some news of like other officers he's worked with here, like his subordinates. He learned that some of them died, one or two. One was dead and the other was arrested. And he was sad. He was broken by it. It was crazy listening. I remember watching him and looking at his face. He looked like he was about to cry. And I'm like, have I ever seen that in Star Wars at all? Like a caring Imperial officer? Because this guy he's not interested in defecting at all. But he was very much so human, very human. And, he was still evil, but he had some sort of light in him. And that was so cool to see. And Daedra, the blonde girl in the right, we see a lot of her character. We explore her relationship with Cyril here, who is, they're very different. And they have such a weird relationship. It's kind of gross to watch. It just doesn't, it's so unsettling. And they don't like really have any chemistry, but that sort of makes it interesting. But, as the show progresses, you kind of think initially she's going to loosen up and maybe, I don't know, be less, uptight about everything in the Empire because of all the terrible things she's seen. But she seems to just get more and more evil as the show progresses. And as that happens simultaneously, Cyril sort of becomes a little bit more open-minded and caring. And, what happens to him is insane. That's sort of like, there's a rare moment in Star Wars altogether where it's just like it's like a 20-second revelation, just one little scene, and everything in the entire series led up to that moment. And it happens in an instant. You don't see it coming, and it all just hits you at once, like a train. And it's pretty cool. And it has to do with Cyril here. And it's like, wow, great job setting that up. This was really special, seeing this this unfold here. So that was a pleasure to watch. There's quite a few of those that happen. The very end, as you mentioned, Gen X Man, the ending, it perfectly wraps up everything that they've set up. And it's all interesting and it's sad. My gosh, I was reminded of how tragic Rogue One is. And one reason why I didn't want this show to end was because it's heartbreaking to know that all these characters that you've grown to love are all gonna die in Rogue One. I mean, there's barely any survivors in Rogue One, so it was disheartening and sad to see to end the show and realize, oh no, now we got to watch Rogue One because the very last episode it leads directly into Rogue One, which I can respect. I think it's great, but geez, I don't know. There's so many just high points to call out here. I think you mentioned a lot of mine. I think like with Andor, compared to like if you compare him with other characters, I think Mando is cool. I think yeah, Mando's cool. Boba Fett was cool. He was cool when he showed up in Mandalorian season 2. He was not cool at all in Book of Boba Fett. They really chopped his balls off, sadly. What other characters? Kenobi, they made him sort of a baby, or they made him super weak in Kenobi, which was disappointing. Even though I thought he gave a great performance, and he really, if anything could save that show, he certainly did. He was amazing in it, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Other than that, I mean,
hop in here a minute about that character. I guess I didn't properly appreciate his growth. I mean, when he starts this series, he's basically a wet sewer rat, right? And, and he's just trying. I mean, the first, what really sets the whole story in motion for him is he has to kill somebody, and not because he wants to, but because he has to, and that really starts him down the path that ultimately leads him to becoming part of the rebellion. And by the end of the show, he's a very different person. He's, instead of just trying to survive and scrape by, he has purpose. He has values, things that he holds dear and that he's going to hold on to, and he's not going to compromise for the things and the people that matter to him.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of neat to see. And I think he even taught that same lesson to others around him at various points when they were so focused on, it's all about the rebellion, and he, without saying it, he sort of communicated, it's not all about the rebellion. It's about, our allegiance to one another. And and we make sacrifices not just for the cause, but we make sacrifices for ourselves because our individual lives matter too. And so that's something that I think was sort of a message I took away from him in the end. And I really reflected, I mean, for personal reasons, I sort of reflected on that. So for instance, if you're part of the empire, it literally is all about the cause, whatever that happens to be, or whatever people think it is. There is no room for you to have a real life.
No,
your ambitions mean nothing. You are not perceived as, an autonomous being that has your own dreams and aspirations. None of that matters. And when you try to, when people try to pursue that, they kind of get crushed.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of thought like that was one of the differences between the empire and the rebellion, was that the rebellion, at the end of the day, it still valued human life. And I think that's one of the main things that sets it apart from the empire, just based on the actions and the decisions that the characters make in the show. But anyway, I digress. It's just something that I've been reflecting on quite a bit.
Well, yeah, I'm glad because I'm pretty sure you pretty much, you kind of swallowed the whole series pretty recently too. Like you watched most of it all together as well. But there's so much to process with this show. That's why like my setting up the summaries, I didn't realize how long I was talking, but it's like I just scratched the surface when I was setting up what happened in season 1 and season 2, because there's just so much meat to this pie. And these poor guys, they have no life at all. These officers, no life, strictly driven just to do the cause. And you know what? If you somehow tarnish that, if you're not as committed as you should be, they're kicking you out and you're getting kicked out of life. Like you're done. They're killing you. It's over. So it was so interesting to see that further explored here. let's see, what else can I possibly say? Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's all of it comes down to the leading cast. You know, Cassian, as great as he was, which was awesome, great leading man, amazing main protagonist. You had so many other great characters. Another character I definitely want to appreciate, it was Forrest Whitaker as Saw Gerrera. He barely showed up, but boy, did he steal the show. Every shot he was in, he is just master class in this. Really rich performance. You know, you learn quite a bit about his character, even though we maybe get like maximum 12 minutes of screen time in this whole season of Saw Gerrera. But you learn like how he's like so screwed up, like physically and mentally, you know, his mental headspace, his trust issues. And you see how he's actually like, even though he's kind of nuts, he's also kind of genius and he really reads people well. And Forrest Whitaker, he just looked great in this. I was really impressed by his performance. And this, like Andor season 2, it makes me want to watch more Forrest Whitaker films because I haven't really seen any, and I'm very curious about him. I know you're a pretty big. Are you a fan of Forrest Whitaker's work?
Yeah, and he's been in a lot of different things. He's been in a lot of different movies over the years, and I seem to recall that he had sort of a streak of movies that did real well, and then he kind of disappeared from the public eye for a while,
Hmm.
and then he came back, and I don't remember exactly what his return looked like, but I certainly remember him showing up in Rogue One.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and I'm glad you mentioned him because, you know, of all the situations we see and all the faces that we watch, his is the only one that I would call menacing. I mean, when he's
Mm.
like staring down certain people, it's just like you have no idea what's going on in his head. You have no idea what he's going to do next.
That's true. That's true.
And I think, my gosh, if you were in his presence, you'd just be putting you to shame.
You'd crap your pants.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. He really, yeah. My gosh, he's a 5-star actor in this. He really steals the show. Him and is it Stellan or Skellen Skarsgård? I think it's Stellan Skarsgård. He is also. He's just not in this enough. He was really prominent in the first season. In the second season, we don't really get much of Luthen. Luthen is awesome. My gosh, such a star character. I love every single time we see him. And you know what? You know, if you're familiar with the show, you remember, you know, he transforms. You know, this is like, you know, he's not happy here. But when he's wearing this, I guess that's technically a wig, even though it doesn't look like a wig at all. But when he's got his hair all fancy and he's wearing these fancy clothes, this is his sort of like antique shop guru, you know, flamboyant philanthropist. That's sort of his that persona, and he's very interesting and flamboyant and boisterous and loud and fun and happy, jovial, all the friendly terms that come to mind. And then you know his real self is just jaded, dark, careless, merciless, and flat, strictly driven by mission, even if it hurts himself. Wow, really, really incredible work from him. And you see a decent amount of him in the last 3 episodes, which is good. But you know, the whole season we don't get enough of him. Wouldn't you agree, Gen X man, that we don't get enough of Luthen in this season?
I do agree. Much later in season 2, the last couple episodes, you actually learn quite a bit about his backstory,
Mm-hmm.
why he is the way he is, how he got to be where he is, and it is pretty fascinating. And again, back to special effects, they de-age him because they look back into his past, and it's awesome.
It looks great.
It looks great. It's very well done. It doesn't look, I don't know, he doesn't look like a wax figure or anything like
No.
that. But yeah, you're right. They kind of abandoned him for a decent part of season 2, and I had almost forgotten how much fun that other person, that alter ego, is
Oh
when it
yeah.
appeared in the first season. And there is a time, there is an episode, and I don't want to give away too many of the details, where you see him in that alternate character, alter ego, and you see the depth of that character
Mm.
and his trade, his craft, whatever, even for just a few minutes. And it's just so interesting to see him, you know, act as if he's a totally different person, and it's very convincing.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, it's so much. I'm glad you mentioned that. It's just fun. It's so fun, and it kind of like that character. That's the little bit of comic relief you sort of got from Andor, which I appreciate. Not having a bunch of stupid jokes all the time. Not like C-3PO. I love C-3PO. But I'm talking like Marvel jokes, like stupid quips nonstop. That's not in here at all. And even when K2SO shows up, which you mentioned you enjoyed for comical relief, which I also enjoyed, I thought it was great. He does not give stupid Marvel quips, not little witty banter, quippy crap while important stuff is going on. They have a respect for that, and yeah, he sort of brought that. Another character who is a prominent character in this series, which I'll just say now, I'm starting to think that Clea might be my favorite new Star Wars female character. Definitely out of Disney's reign. I don't know who else I would mention. Really well developed woman here. I loved watching her. I love watching how confident she was. She was confident, but also cautionary. Very well spoken, strong. She had a great. I loved her relationship with Luthen. You were kind of wondering, like, what is this? Is this his daughter? Is this like just a stranger that works for him? That's something you learn towards the end, which is very interesting. They do a good job with developing that in the background, which you mentioned, like the flashbacks, which they don't really do many flashbacks in this, which is for the best, really. But other than that, I just love watching her character. I loved how serious she was and driven, very purpose driven, and she wasn't annoying at all. I wasn't annoyed by her character one bit. And yes, she's very attractive, and she looks exactly like Leia. I know you and me both talked about that before. I mean, if they wanted to ever recast Leia, I mean, look at her. People in the chat, I mean, you have to agree, right? She looks exactly like Princess Leia, especially in the show. And it's like, were they trying to do that? I mean, her name is Kalea. She looks like this. She sounds like her too. I mean, she sort of has the same kind of rasp that Carrie Fisher had. And I don't know, she kind of brings a similar performance, and I loved it. Really happy with her character. As we talked about, the last 3 episodes, they kind of focus on her a little too much. And by the end of the show, you're kind of left wondering, why did we spend all this time with her? Because in the way it finishes, which I won't say, it doesn't make sense why we saw her so much. Like, why? What was the point of all this? I'm not exactly complaining, but I think we could have done other things. Don't you kind of agree with that, Gen X man? Like, what was the point?
Yeah, like she was certainly in season one, you became familiar with her, seeing her in various scenes, and she had a speaking part and all that. But yeah, they really brought her forward to the forefront and made her a character that they wanted to spend time on and develop and give her a real personality. And yeah, by the end, I was thinking the same thing. Wait a minute, why all that extra time with her and her struggles? Are they planning to do something else with this character in another
Yeah,
show? Because that would make sense of the investment they made, just with screen time and focus on her. Unless if they're not planning to do anything with that character in the future, then I wonder what the heck are they up to?
hmm.
Why did they make those set of choices?
I mean, congratulations to Disney. They finally got it, guys. They finally made one great female character. This is the first one in 2012 in 13 years. Great job, Disney. You did it. You got one solid female character. Congratulations. Took you long enough. This is it. I mean, this is it right here. She was really. I still loved her. Very. You know what? I'm very curious to know if they do more with her character, because it's interesting, very interesting, not exactly expected. Hopefully that doesn't spoil anything. But before we get into the negatives, because we definitely have some negatives about this, I want to get to a few of the comments. So thank you everybody for joining us and commenting today. We appreciate all of you. Also, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already, and share with your friends that are also interested in learning more about Andor. Hopefully, Gen X Man and I, we will either persuade you or dissuade you by the end of this video, because we still have some negatives to mention that may steer you away from Andor after all. So stay tuned for the rest of the stream. Starting here with Blue Collar Loser, friend of the channel. Jackson, I'll listen to the replay at work tomorrow. Getting drunk at karaoke, about to sing Bon Jovi. Classic Blue Collar Loser. So, man, thanks for. I'll see you tomorrow, I guess, in spirit. Just with Jared, Andor is the only good Star Wars series, in my opinion. Yeah, watch the Clone Wars, man. Watch the Clone Wars. Might change your mind. And Tales of the Jedi was also good. I enjoyed that. And I like Bad Batch. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's a young thing. I'm not sure. Proctophile. What's up, guys? How we doing tonight? We're doing good, man. Yeah, having a good time. It's great having Gen X Man on here. It's his debut on the Box Office Brawler stream. So we appreciate you, Gen X Man. Why don't you tell people real quick what your logo is if they don't know what it is?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you know how you're just trying to think about what do I want to call myself as a guest on this show, and so I don't know, Gen X Man popped in my head, and then I remembered this character from the old Speed Racer TV show, a cartoon, and Speed Racer had a brother named Racer X. And so this is a picture of Racer X, and you know, when I watched that show as a kid, I thought he was very mysterious because you'd only see him when Speed got in a real jam and he couldn't get out of it. You thought all was lost, and then Racer X would show up to the rescue, and so I always thought that was kind of a neat character.
Nice.
And, yeah, and he's got the X on his head, so you know.
Very mysterious. Well, do you think the world will ever see your face, Gen X Man, or is this the best we're getting?
I don't. We'll wait and see. You know, maybe there'll be a reveal someday.
Oh, you got to stick around. Every time Gen X Man's on the stream, you gotta hope. Gotta hope. Nice. Oh, Canyon. Tristan, what's up, man? Rogue One greater than Andor. Are you watching season 2 as well, man? I'm definitely curious about your thoughts. I don't know. I do love Rogue One. That first season of Andor, it's really hard to beat that. Good. Just what Jared understands. Sabine was awful. She is terrible. And, here we go. Gold Coast Memories and Things. What's up, man? You're new to the stream. THX 1138. That's the film. That's the George Lucas film about, like, the prison inmates in, like, a, what do they call it? Dystopian prison. Something like that. Thanks, man. Procfile, character dramas are the best. Yeah, man, exactly. Yeah, I liked how it was like, I think it was Chris Gore on Film Thread. He mentioned how, with TV shows, why wouldn't they just get more involved exploring like smaller stories, right? Like character dramas. Like, why not? That's what TV show's for. It doesn't have to be big, monumental, big events. It shouldn't be that way. It should just discover the smaller things, the niceties. Gold Coast Memories and Things. I think they were attempting to show what an unorganized rebellion looks like. It was just dragged out far too long. I think you're referring to I think you're referring to the first 3 episodes of season 2, which I would completely agree with. Or you're talking about the first season, which I don't think the first season was dragged out too far.
I think when he posted that, he was thinking of that ragtag group people that was stranded on the planet and were sort of divided against each other.
Okay.
That
was miserable.
Yeah, that was very tedious to watch all of the.
Oh, so cringy. Gosh. Oh, bunch of misfits. What a waste of time. Proctophile. The idea of a wedding rave just doesn't sound right for Star Wars, but I guess I'll have to reserve judgment till whenever I see it myself. That's what's sad, Gen X Man. Nobody, like, I'm curious to know how many people are actually watching Andor season 2. I don't think anybody cares. Let's see.
You know what they needed instead of the floating disco ball? They needed a live band, right? Like,
that'd be fun.
Cantina.
Yeah, that would have been more interesting.
Yeah, and then we could have gotten our dose of aliens and funny shaped noses and things.
That would, cure that fix. Cure the fix. Just with Jared, I like that point. Oh, I like that point, Gen X, man. Pretty ironic that Gilroy, who admits to not being a big fan of Star Wars, treated the source material with more respect than other characters who claim to be big fans. Yeah. Exactly. Knock it off, brawler. We don't talk about Acolyte. Yeah, I know. I haven't talked about it that much. Not even on streams. I did have a few videos I enjoyed making. Okay, Brown Eyes of Mandalore. What's up, man? Okay, I'm here. Just gonna say hi. I haven't seen the last 3 episodes yet. Okay, man. Hopefully, I don't think we spoiled anything if you're still with us. Casuals won't be watching this, brawler. Star Wars fans are hardly watching it. I know, isn't that sad? It's dead. It's dead. Star Wars it's just dead, man. It's there's nothing they can really do to stop it. And I'm in the same fields as everyone else. I can't even believe I went through the whole series. Just with Jared, probably would have been better for marketing to call it Rise of the Rebellion rather than Andor. Yeah. Why?
Good
Yeah,
point.
you don't need to,
Good point.
why narrow it down to Andor? I'm okay. Brown eyes of Mandalore. You're definitely diehard. I mean, you have brown eyes right there as your profile. I'm as diehard as it gets, and I'll say, while it has its merits, I just don't find the series as golden as everyone thinks it is. A big gripe I have is that it just doesn't have proper aesthetics. Oh, that's interesting. Well, I don't know. I think it looks great, but I think there's some stuff in there that doesn't really seem Star Wars. But nobody can seem to get it right though. So you got to give them credit where credit's due. Here we go. Proctofile. Love me some Speed Racer. That show is the perfect level of fun, heart, and jank. Whatever that means. Just with Jared, I've seen the entire animated Clone Wars a couple times. It's okay. I really don't like the Mortis arc, but the Ahsoka and Anakin dynamic grew on me when I rewatched the show as an adult. Oh, you didn't like the Mortis arc? Oh, I liked that one. Yeah, it's definitely way more like spiritual and like spiritual than anything else Star Wars related. Kind of went off pretty crazy course there for Star Wars. Yeah, I can see why most people wouldn't enjoy that, but I loved it. Oh, Gold Coast Memories, the first three. I don't know. Oh yeah, the first 3 episodes. All right. Well, I think we're going to talk about real quick some of the negatives about Andor season 2, and also just Andor altogether. I know we want to sprinkle both of those in. Are there any like discomforts or disappointments you have with Andor season 2 that you wanna talk about, Jet X Man?
Oh goodness. Okay. Well, you brought one of them up earlier on. It's just people, talking, shooting at one another, what have you. There's no aliens, or very few of them.
No ships, barely any ships either.
Very, very few ships. Yeah, and that was really kind of my second disappointment. Let me think how to develop this a little bit. So you see the TIE fighters, right? There's blasters, there's other things that are sci-fi-ish. I wish they had taken some risks and introduced some other technologies, that probably could or would exist in the Star Wars universe. They were sort of just kind of giving us what we'd already seen many times over. I just think that would have been more interesting if, just something to think about later, like, oh, wow, look at that weapon. I would never have thought of that. Or I don't know. Sky's the limit. They could have done any number of things to deepen the Star Wars lore, which includes their technology.
That's true.
So that was a second disappointment. A third disappointment is really with the script. And what I mean by that is you have to pay very close attention to conversations, because later things happen and you look at how people react to those events and you're like, wait a minute, why are they so upset? Or why are they all running this way now? And it's because of some stray comment that one character said to another much earlier on. And like, again, I won't give it away, but that character Cyril, he has this moral crisis, we'll call it. And on the one hand, you think, well, wait a minute, why does he care what's happening here to these people that are around him? He just seemed like a suck up to the Empire, and suddenly he's all angry and red in the face, and I thought, well, I don't know, I don't remember him showing any signs of caring or concern for anybody. Why is he showing it now?
Mm.
And I thought, well, maybe if maybe if I had listened to every stray word said and whispered, voices early on, maybe I would have understood him better. So I thought that was another disappointment. It was all very adult themed, and it was too many things were subtle, and they didn't
Mm.
bring out front so that we could see them clearly, and so when we return to those themes later, they would make sense and give us a better context. Maybe I'm speaking too abstractly here, but I
No,
just
no, I completely agree. Yeah, I mean, you have to listen to everything. You have to listen to everything they say, and yeah, it's a little exhausting. And this show is so adult. I mean, it really, like you said, how like the comic relief does. It sort of guides you through a story a little better because you can relax at times. But everything's like intense, pretty much continuous, and everything's serious, and every pretty much all the loose ends are tied, and that's also that is a big change. Like, why does he care about anybody at this point? Yeah, he didn't really. I don't know. I guess in the very first season, you also have to remember everything that happens in the first season as well. You kind of need to watch both of these seasons back to back. I think you would have a much better understanding. I did not do that. I know you didn't do that. I doubt anybody has done that. But I think that would definitely give you a better scope of everything if you sit down, pay attention for an hour long, an hour for each episode, episode a day for a couple weeks. That's kind of what it's going to take for you to completely get the full scope of everything that happens here. And, that's a little tiresome. It's a little exhausting. So I definitely agree with you there.
one
Uh,
other thing. I think that first episode is going to make or break a lot of viewers. The first
mm,
episode of season 2, because it
yeah.
it really comes out big and flashy with Andor stealing the TIE fighter and
Oh, yeah.
struggling to fly it, and then suddenly everything comes to this crushing halt where people are just talking to one another in various contexts, at different scenes, different situations, and it's like, would you all just stop talking and do something?
Uh
And so after that first episode, I gave up. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to watch any more of this.
huh.
And then for whatever reason, I came back to it. Maybe I got bored, and I was like, all right, let's pull up episode 2.
Yeah. I think you even had more optimism, I think, than I did about rewatching it, or giving it a second chance. But yeah, I mean, that's a strong entrance. You have this crazy TIE fighter sequence where you see the inside of a TIE fighter, a nice tour through a TIE fighter. And, it's pretty awesome. It's really awesome. Great, beautiful scene. It lasts like 7 minutes, and that's it. And you actually don't really see anything like that for the rest of the season. That's about it with that kind of spectacle. So yeah, weird choice there. Weird way to start off. Do you have any more disappointments or grievances you want to file about Andor that could possibly dissuade people from watching the show?
Hmm. Well, it's a different universe. I think it's easy to think of this as a different Star Wars universe because there's something glaringly absent, and that's the Force.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something that happens that is Force-like, and you might even know what I'm talking about, Brawler. There's
Hmm.
somebody does something, and it seems like it might be related. They might have Force powers or something, but it's never really clear. And there's they refer to the Emperor, but you never see the Emperor.
I know. I wanted to see him. I wanted to see him.
Yeah, and the Force and anything related to it, it's completely absent. And so if that's what gets you excited about Star Wars, you're going to have to set that expectation aside.
Yeah, I mean that's the main thing about Star Wars itself, right? I mean, it's the Force, it's Jedi, it's lightsabers, it's space battles. What is it? It's aliens. It's the music. The music is really good in this, especially the last three episodes. You and me both talked about it off camera. how the score, my gosh, those 3 episodes, that's really, it's some of the most intense Star Wars you will ever see. My gosh, is it intense. And it hurts. Oh my gosh, it's stomach curling and twirling. It's terrible. It's really hard to watch those last 3. And you really feel for it. There's not much, there's nothing Star Wars related that'll really get you twist up like that. This certainly did. I was sad, not even because like certain characters died necessarily, just sad like about seeing what happened. And I was sad that it ended. I was sad that the story was over because I was really starting to, I was falling for these characters. I was really growing reattached to them, especially Andor.
You pointed out something I guess I completely forgot about, which was there are no space battles.
None. Yeah. Is there any?
I can't think of
No.
any. Um,
No.
these really they're just transports to get from point A to point B. There's no dog fights like you had between TIE fighters and X-wings or the Millennium Falcon. Nothing like that. Uh, maybe we're both forgetting it, but
I
I
don't think.
can't think of
Yeah, I
any.
don't think so. Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? I guess
Yeah.
they're too expensive, right? Too expensive. I don't know. It would be nice to have like a really competent creator make that for us. I wish we would get that, but we're who knows? You have that stupid new Star Wars Starfighter film. Ooh, with Ryan Gosling and the guy that made Deadpool. That's so promising. I can't wait. Oof. I don't know. No, no. Stop. Stop. Maybe he can. Maybe we could get some interesting choreographed space battles. I don't know. I don't think he has it. I'd say I want to talk about a few of my disappointments. And if you have more, please tell me because I want to hear more from you, Gen X man. Uh, One of the disappointments for me was they make a big deal about this Gorman rebellion, like the rebellion up the rebellious uprising in Gorman, that planet, and it's pretty much just a bunch of French, like a bunch of French revolutionaries. And I don't have a picture of the Gorman people. Well, actually, maybe this one has some. No, not a single one is listed here. They're not really very interesting. We spend a lot of time with like 3 of the characters in the Gorman Revolt. You get like the old man who's sort of the leader. You get this younger woman who likes Bix's brother, who is he's the guy in the green jacket there. And then you get like this other younger guy. And there's a terrible lecturing scene where Vel lectures him about how he's terrible and evil and you'll deal with what you did for the rest of your life. It was rough to watch. Definitely takes you out of it. That's like the only like real cringe scene that they have in there that's like off-putting for me. You could get past that. But yeah, these Gorman people, I didn't really care about them at all. I didn't like them. I kind of liked the old man. He was all right. The girl was really annoying to me. I don't even know why. She just was not interesting. Just waste of screen time. Same for the young guy. I didn't care about him at all really either. And we spend so much time with these characters. You remember these guys, Gen X man, because they're just forgettable, uninteresting, and we're supposed to care about them because this was a pivotal moment in the entire series. Was seeing hell break loose here at this event in the background. I think the collapse of this, the massacre, was really interesting, and I loved that. But the build up to it, I just couldn't fall. I couldn't fall for these characters.
That's an excellent point. We've all kind of become pretty aware, knowledgeable of what protests look like, right? We've had so many in the U.S. and really abroad over the last 5, 6, 7 years, whatever, or longer. And so when you see them protest, it's like, no surprises here. This isn't anything new, and it's really tame compared to even things that have happened here in the U.S. and
Oh yeah,
and
that's
a relatively
hilarious.
small group of people too. I mean, it's not, I don't know, what, a couple hundred, and
Yeah, how many are
versus
here?
domestic protests here with thousands of people in them, and it just sort of
Hmm.
it's yeah it and you wonder why would the rest of the galaxy pay any attention to this at all?
That's a good point. Yeah, yeah. Why? I mean, I guess it's a prosperous country, or not country, a prosperous planet. It has like I think it has influence because it has the planet hosts like unique resources that the planet like the galaxy needs. So maybe it's sort of a one of those planets that everybody looks up to as like a an important one, and that's sort of why the Empire's interested in it. But it's also doing secret stuff in the background that nobody's really talking about. So I don't know. Yeah, at the end of the day, who cared about any of that? That part of it was disappointing. Those characters totally uninteresting. I was also like, and that idea I want to continue further because this is Andor's show. This is Andor. We're watching Andor. I'm here for Andor. We don't get much of him. We waste so much time with these other characters. I don't really care about Bix, his girlfriend, wife, whatever she is. I didn't really care about her much in this. She was okay. They really didn't do much with her either. She was just kind of, I don't know, the relationship and sort of like, the lady back home wants you to be safe, which is nice, but we wasted a lot of time with her we didn't need. What else? I didn't care about Vel. I didn't really care about her or the other girl. Cyril, I thought we got a decent amount of Cyril. I liked the Imperial officers. I thought they were great. I thought Clea was awesome. Oh, another character I don't like. He's here. Is Bix's brother, the guy in the green jacket. I didn't like him at all. Didn't care about him. We spent a lot of time with his character as well, and he was interested in the Gorman Revolution girl. It's like, okay, it's just too much. There was a little too many hats being worn in the show, and we did not get enough time with Andor because he stole the show in the first season, and he kind of played second fiddle to a lot of these characters, which doesn't, it's just odd, really odd. Other than that, I don't really have too many other complaints. I think we've pretty much talked about all of them. Gen X Man, what do you think with this series? How do you think it ranks against the other Disney Plus series that they made with Star Wars? I'll just name a few just real quick. So we have
that would help.
Yeah, you have Mandalorian season 1, 2, and then the awful season 3. Then you have I guess we'll just do live action ones. You have Book of Boba Fett. You have Acolyte. You have Skeleton Crew, which neither of us watched. What else? Am I missing any? That might be it. Andor.
Did you say Obi-Wan?
Kenobi. Kenobi. Yeah, then you have
Kenobi.
Kenobi. So yeah, where do you think you put this against all the other ones?
Well, the production value on Andor was well above the rest. You could tell they put real money into the backdrops, whether they're real or rendered. I don't know, but it all looked very real. It looked like people were living in it. Yeah, so I'd say on that scale, I would put it probably number one, just on the overall production value, the slickness of it, the way everything kind of folded together. It was all very, very, very well done, very high quality. Story, well, it kind of, it's had its ups and downs. I think I liked the first season of Mandalorian better than the Andor storyline. But by, like you pointed out, by the end of Mandalorian, it was getting kind of silly. And
it ruins everything for you. Just one bad season. It's just like it's a rotten fruit. I mean, it doesn't make you want to eat the fruit again. Yeah. I don't want to see really any more Mandalorian. That third season was terrible.
We Acolyte, we don't even need to consider that. That's automatically at the bottom. No that's debate, good. No room for debate there.
Don't waste your breath.
Yeah, it was made for an adult audience. We've already said that. It is made for a more sophisticated viewer. Things aren't being spoon-fed to you. You have to absorb it and kind of turn it over in your mind and savor it. And, so it's for a different kind of viewer than I think some of those other series are. The other series is more action-packed, simpler storylines, character sets. So it's kind of hard to rank it. Because
This
it
show, it
just
needed more
stands alone.
action. I think this season needed a lot more action. I think it was so heavily drama dialogue based that it just needed. I think we needed some exciting scenes in every episode. Which some of these episodes, I feel like they went an hour long without anything like action packed or exciting happening. And I don't like to think of myself as a dull viewer, but I mean, you gotta give us a little bit of spice. I mean, it's an
That's a
hour of
good
our
point.
time.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, it's Star Wars. Things happen, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. It's Rebels, Rebel versus Stormtroopers. Another weird thing, and I'm curious about your take, especially the last three episodes. You see so many like Stormtrooper people, but no one's wearing their helmets. Everybody has the Stormtrooper armor on, but they don't have the helmet on, and they look kind of silly. That was sort of a problem with the first season was we had so many of those the troopers they'll have like half the armor on, or maybe just the chest plate and the shoulder plates, no helmet, or just the Imperial officer hat with the armor. It looks silly. That really it kind of takes me out of Star Wars when I see that. What did you feel kind of bothered by that?
Yeah, I was a little bit confused, and I kept thinking, are they going to put on the helmet? Because they got everything else here, and I started to think about, wait a minute, that's not exactly how the stormtroopers look. It's a little different, the like how much of their body is covered by the armor, and okay, so I guess they're not stormtroopers, they're something else.
Yeah,
But yeah, we did see stormtroopers, and but they weren't at the forefront. They weren't the ones always taking the shots. A lot of
yeah.
times it was these other guys who were sort of quasi stormtroopers. They probably have other titles.
Yeah, that has to be it, right? Like they're just not standard stormtroopers. I think, yeah, I guess it makes for interesting dynamic. Yeah, I guess they're just higher up. Like those last few guys we see, they're probably like special forces. We sort of like came to that conclusion. There's some sort of ISB special forces, but I don't know. That kind of takes me out. Doesn't really feel like Star Wars. Other than that, not really any complaints. I think the way I would rank this, I think
Yeah, that's what
I
I was going to
loved
ask you. How do you rank it?
yeah, yeah. I think Mando was so fun. I had fun watching Mando season one and two. I remember when I watched Mando season two, the first episode, the one where you're introduced to Boba Fett and he like, or no. Yeah, Boba Fett's at the very end. He's like the end credit scene. But you're introduced to a Cobb Vanth, the thin guy, and he's got the armor, and they take on the giant beast, like the giant sandworm with the Tusken Raiders, and it's literally shot for IMAX on the big TV. I watched it. I think I watched it three times over. I was homesick. I watched it the first time. Oh my gosh! I remember I was cheering and shouting. I was so happy and excited because that was so much fun. I loved that first episode, and seeing Boba Fett at the very end. That was back when cameos like made me feel good. At this point, cameos make me cringe. I really enjoyed cameos back then, and I loved what they did with Boba in Mando season two. I thought, even though he was bigger, he was competent and he was cool. But in Book of Boba Fett, they really chop his balls off for some reason. Not exactly sure why, but not a big fan of that director. What's his name? It's escaping me right now, but not a big fan of him. And of course, you got the motor, the what is it, like the moped bicyclists people, they're on like those old lady cars, so they're supposed to be cool. The gangsters, it's like, oh my gosh, what were you thinking, man? That was a terrible choice. So I think story wise, Mando, you're right. I think Mando season one is at the top. Mando season two, I do enjoy the story, but it's a little bit of just a hodgepodge of different fun elements, just little mini adventures. Mando season three was awful, really hard to watch. Couldn't stand what they did with Bo-Katan at all. And I liked her before. I liked her in the Clone Wars, and I liked her in Mando season two. I did not like her in Mando season three a single second, not at all. Really destroyed her character. Um, let's see. Acolyte definitely bottom. Book of Boba Fett is probably second on bottom. No. Mando season three is second on bottom. Book of Boba Fett is probably the third. Well, yeah, I'll put that there, and then Kenobi, and then uh, I guess Mando season two, then and then Andor season one, or no, Andor season two, and then Andor season one, and then Mando season one. I think that's all the ones I've seen. Yeah, that's a lot to keep track of. But Gen X man, why don't we conclude here and tell people, do you recommend Andor? Do you think people for Andor viewers that have watched season 1 but haven't really been too interested in watching season 2, do you think it's worth their time watching season 2? For viewers that haven't seen either of these seasons, do you think it's worth their time investing in the show? Why don't you give us your thoughts?
The answer is yes.
Across the board.
Across the board. I mean, if you didn't like season 1 of Andor, you're definitely not going to like season 2
That's
any
true.
better.
That's true.
If you liked season 1, you're not going to like everything about season 2, but if you can get past the first couple of episodes, then you'll be happier with the rest of it. I guess, yeah, just to keep it short.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think season 1 was better. I think season 1 was way more fun. I enjoyed the first season a lot more than this one. I think this one, it's so much build up and everything pays off, but it's so much build up that you get kind of lost in the weeds. So season 1 is really just nonstop entertainment for me. Season 2 is still great. Definitely recommend checking out both of them, especially if you want to see Star Wars taken in a more respectable direction, as we've mentioned, for an hour and 20 minutes. But, I don't think you have any projects coming up, Gen X man. You're sort of new to YouTube. This is one of your first steps in here. So I appreciate you joining me here tonight, man. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And
thank you. Thank you.
yeah, it was a pleasure having you on here. And yeah, thank you, audience, for tuning in and listening. If you liked what we had to say today, please make sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Gen X Man, actually, you don't even have a YouTube channel yet, so you'll have to wait to get Gen X Man's. You have to wait to subscribe to him, but stay tuned for that. And yeah, just thank you for watching. We really appreciate you. Appreciate your time. And if you have anybody in your life, a family member, a friend that's curious about Andor, please make sure to share the stream with them, because hopefully we can convince them to check this out from two very different perspectives, Gen Z and Gen X here. So we hope you have a great day today, and